Our next speaker is Carmen Zamora. Carmen is a caring and outgoing spirit who loves to explore her backyard of California by snorkeling in the Pacific, walking through the redwoods, or trekking up the eastern Sierras. She also enjoys having random dance improvs with her classmate, Kimmy. Carmen has a background in science education. Later in her career, she moved on to focusing on hazardous materials and environmental compliance with the County of Sacramento. With this project, Carmen is able to stitch together this background to create an outreach project that looks at estuaries, urban environments, and water quality. The name of her presentation is How is Sea Level Rise Affecting Mouth Openings, and What Are Its Impacts on the Estuarine Habitats and Their Water Quality?
All right, thank you, Samantha, for that introduction. So I'm gonna start by telling a little backstory. So the first time that I stepped foot into the Pacific Ocean was when I was 14 years old. Though coming from an under-resourced community, I didn't make that initial connection to the ocean until I was well into college. It took me what it felt like forever to really start feeling moved by the ocean ecosystems. So when I became a science educator, I wanted to give other students the chance to gain that same experience. I was able to bring my 5th and 6th grade class to see the ocean, some for the very first time. Seeing how they had this new fondness for the sea was really moving to me. It gave me hope that they will take this experience and contribute to conservation in one form or another. This feeling of inspiration has stuck with me since. So finally, putting one foot forward, I joined the MAS MBC program to learn more on the coastline and building that connection between people and marine ecosystems. When I was looking around for a capstone project, I came across the Nature Conservancy, who was working alongside the City of Oxnard and the State Coastal Conservancy on connecting the community of Oxnard to their very unique and very diverse beach. This area is known as Ormond Beach, which is about 1,500 acres long in Ventura County. Ormond Beach currently hosts one of the bigger wetlands in Southern California, as it has about 680 acres of wetlands at this site. So it has a lot of potential for restoration. This specific area represents one of the more unique opportunities to restore wetlands in the state because, let's face it, with infrastructure increasing near the coastline, we really don't have that opportunity to restore these habitats. So this is important to note because in the state we have lost about 62% of our wetlands. They are now one of the most threatened coastal habitats in California and in the world in general. This is because they are the front line of many ocean-related stressors, one in particular being sea level rise. The bottom line, as you can see in the chart from the Southern California Wetland Recovery Program, it shows that Southern California coastal wetland habitats will change over time with sea level rise. The blue represents subtidal, meaning it is part of the wetland that is underwater. The brown is a wetland with no vegetation, and the green is a vegetated wetland. As sea level rise increases, we're going to lose more of the green vegetated area to completely be submerged underwater. The vegetated area is important because that's what's going to protect the community from storm surges when a big storm hits in the future. The challenge is to maintain a combination of these three habitats instead of losing a majority of the vegetated wetland area. So after visiting Ormond Beach for myself, I learned about the many other issues that they were facing, from illegal dumping and increasing homeless encampments to public access and more. Fortunately, the Nature Conservancy, the Coastal Conservancy, and the City of Oxnard are working on a project to combat all these issues, including sea level rise resiliency within coastal systems. The project is known as the Ormond Beach Restoration and Public Access Plan. It is in its preliminary stages, but they hope to restore the Ormond Beach site and its degraded wetlands to an enjoyable and cleaner beach with an opportunity for public access and vital habitat restoration. While speaking with the Nature Conservancy, I found that there was a disconnect between the underrepresented Spanish community and Ormond Beach. Some had never been to this area and others found it hard to get to. During this past year with the pandemic, I wanted to bring the underrepresented people into the project. I wanted to make a visual that would help bridge that gap. I wanted to bring the beach to the people, so I thought, why not a virtual tour? I came up with the idea when my chair, Laura Ingman, introduced me to the Dunas virtual tour project. that Dr. Isabel Rivera and my committee member, Alex Warnicki, with the Climate Science Alliance, worked on with the Puerto Rican community. So I proposed to the Nature Conservancy and their project partners on a virtual tour of Ormond Beach. I wanted to use this visual tool to allow the local community to build a connection to the site and its coastal wetlands so they can understand what the project is wanting to do. It was really important for me to learn as much as I could about the science, the function, and the importance behind these coastal systems, so that then I can incorporate this information into the stops along the virtual tour in a way that was easy for the local community to understand. So here I will briefly walk you through the virtual tour. The vision here was to show the community the beauty that lies in Ormond Beach. So this is the homepage. Here I included the first access point and a map of the area, as well as the organizers' websites to kind of have an introduction to who they are. I also added a description and overview of the project that shows 5 main themes throughout the stops and the color scheme that you'll see throughout the project. Green icons are in Spanish, orange are in English, and yellow have both. I also show the importance of the lagoon area and how the mouth of the lagoon is now closed, and also focus on the birds that you see in the lagoon, as many bird watchers from all over the world come and visit the site. As I go to the next stop, it continues with learning about the ecology of the lagoon and the wetland species. I focus on the endangered California least tern, as they are part of the 200 migratory birds that stop here. You often see them diving headfirst for fish. As you can see, this is the premier bird watching spot on the Pacific Flyway, and something important to note. I also created a stop to highlight other unique features like coastal dunes. These icons show what they are, how they are made, and why they are important, as well as I focus also on wetland habitats like the dried salt marshes they have and the salt panes, and how this is important for the endangered snowy plover's nesting season. This focus is to inform the public on the importance of the bird nesting and how the fencing that they will see around the Ormond Beach area will help with their survival. So once you get to the open beach, you will learn about sea level rise. I wanted to move the storyline to inform the community about these threats. I emphasize how coastal habitats help with slowing down the process, as well as climate change and global warming, and how it's impacting sea level rise. Then if we go to the last stop, obviously an important part of this project was the people connection. To make it full circle, we end at the second access point, where there's an educational kiosk to learn about the habitats and species, as well as recreation there. There's also this beautiful riparian trail that you see my chair, Laura Ingeman, going on, and it highlights the salt marshes on the side. I also focus on the entry point where you will find Walter, the humble steward, waiting to greet you. The icons also reference how to get involved, and again, the links to the project partners for reference. For the vision, part of the vision is for the tour to be available in Spanish fully, and is also potentially includes some linkages to indigenous sites and cultural values in the area as well. And as the project keeps progressing, the virtual tour will continue to be updated accordingly. So while creating the virtual tour and learning about how wetlands function, I wanted to understand the adaptation measures that were used. I found that the adaptation and management strategies also included connections within the ecosystems. One being freshwater connectivity, where groundwater has become distributed to other areas besides wetlands through man-made channels that have been put in place around Ormond Beach. The downside to this development is that the water supply mostly flows to urban areas, taking away the freshwater input from the wetlands. What is left are the dried ecosystems that have saltier conditions. The Ormond Beach project is hoping to incorporate a reconnection to freshwater to combat this issue. Another strategy was to include wetland transitioning. In some areas, there is an issue with no space for wetland migration. This concept is sometimes referred as the coastal squeeze phenomenon. This concept basically states that with development, wetlands are being squeezed into smaller areas as sea level rises. To combat this, conservation groups are buying out these coastal systems to provide them with space to allow them to migrate and build elevation so that they can transition inland over time. This will also assist with resiliency for the community. In the case of Ormond Beach, the reason that this site is so unique is because even though this was a previously industrial area, it has lots of room for transitioning the wetlands against sea level rise. So while learning about coastal systems, I then found myself asking, are these adaptation strategies used in every coastal system? Do cities or environmental planners use the same management strategies in every coastal wetland, regardless of where it is or how it functions? And the answer that my classmates and I love to hear is, it depends. So I completed a comparative analysis on the management strategies that adapt coastal wetlands to sea level rise as part of my project. I compared the Ormond Beach wetland area to the Tijuana River estuary, which is another really large Southern California coastal system with a large ratio of wetland acreage, and also really prone to sea level rise. I found that they differ in keeping the estuary mouth open because it provides, specifically for Tijuana, because it provided a connection to the ocean that was important for their survival of species. And an example of that was in 2019, the estuary mouth accidentally closed due to an overflow of sediment, and they lost several species of leopard sharks. Though, similarly to Ormond, I found that the Tijuana River estuary is also looking to reconnect groundwater to support freshwater connection and transition zones to bring back their wetland habitats. These sites are also similar because they have these communities that have been off the radar for quite a while. They consist of being in the middle of mostly Spanish-speaking, under-resourced, middle to low-income neighborhoods. What's distinctive about this is that their wetlands are some of the most valued coastal resources, and they're communities that they're in communities that historically have not had that much investment. And a quote I've learned is, if we don't invest in the people, we can't invest in the natural landscape. The connection has to be part of the equation. And the good thing is, it's not just me or these organizations who think these adaptation strategies for coastal systems are important. The state has also understood the importance of coastal wetlands and how they aid in protecting their communities against sea level rise. It is exciting to see that this issue is timely, as this presentation came when the state governor just proposed a new budget that will provide $200 million in coastal wetland restoration, specifically to address sea level rise. Which brings me back to my meaning of connection. As I'm excited to see this investment in coastal systems, I feel like the Ormond Beach project is contributing to the efforts that will connect the people and wetland ecosystems together, and I would like to think that my virtual tour in some way can help to facilitate that. And I'd like to take a moment to give a special thanks to my committee members, Catherine, Alex, Sarayi, Mark, and my chair, Laura, the Nature Conservancy, the Coastal Conservancy, and the City of Oxnard for allowing me to go join their meetings, the MAS program, my leadership, and my fellow classmates, and especially to my family and friends, and Nick, who has been my rock through this all. Thank you. I'm open to questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
So will beachgoers that actually go there in person be able to follow along with your tour? Will there be signage that they can find it when they come?
Yeah, that's a talk for the future, because this virtual tour will be advertised with the TNC outreach program that they are still working on. So once that is out, they kind of want to combine them together so that they can really advertise to specific groups and where they like to where they get their information from. So this will be advertised wherever that would be. So that would be cool if we have posters or signs at the beach that will show that there's a virtual tour that they can go along with.
Kind of a similar question, which you may have answered. Is there a place where virtual folks can access the virtual tour? Not on site, but could we just go to TNC's website and find this virtual tour if folks wanted to see it?
Yeah, so they surveyed a lot of the under-resourced communities and what they find communication from, since most of them are agriculture or workers, or they just have really tough jobs, or have families that they cannot go to these public meetings for these type of projects. They surveyed those folks, and they found that Facebook and the Latin news is a really good source. So they are thinking of doing a Facebook page where they can hopefully advertise the virtual tour and have a link to the website, as well as the TNC website.
Excellent. We've got a question from Diana from Sacramento, who wants to know, based on your coastal squeeze slide, what is your opinion on the strategy called managed retreat?
Thank you, Diana from Sacramento. That's a good question. I think management retreat is a little controversial because it's easy to say in a utopian world to remove infrastructure, remove freeways and roads to kind of give this room for wetlands to transition into. But obviously that's not the case. In reality, it's going to be difficult to do, so I believe, or I feel like, in my opinion, keeping the wetlands that we do have and trying to preserve and restore those are more important, or a first step at least, in figuring out some resiliency against sea level rise.
Excellent. And we've got one more from the web from Graham. Was your project driven more by pandemic restrictions that limit access to the water, or was it to appeal to populations that can't easily access the water for other reasons that might be financial or proximity or related similar causes?
Really great question, Graham. I thought about this myself. I think a little bit of both, but after really digging into the background of the community of Oxnard, I think it started shifting towards me just wanting to have them feel the same connection like I was saying about that I didn't have, and bridging the gaps together between coastal systems and the communities that are underrepresented. So yeah, that's what I think.